And if you don't think it's a good measure of their abilities because there is such a discrepancy, you could throw the subtest out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wouldn't necessarily have to use this subtest. Yeah. Anytime you throw out a subtest, anytime you administer something and then don't use it for your interpretation, but just use it for your interpretation, but not for the scoring, you want to document why you didn't use it for the scoring, and then a little bit more about why you used it for interpretation. So the GAI is an optional score for both the WISC and the WACE, and it's derived from the VCI and PRI. It provides an estimate of G with reduced emphasis on working memory processing speed, which we just said. The the CPI, Cognitive Proficiency Index, is a counterpoint to the GAI, and it has just working memory and processing speed, and it's good for looking at an individual's proficiency at strict cognitive processing. So you can theoretically administer just those subtests if you want to look at just their cognitive processing without the GAI involved. And this is a great look at what those look like and the subtests that filter into them. So this is a way of determining to summarize your intellectual abilities, and you can kind of go through how to make those decision trees. And then after reporting the GAI or FSIQ, you interpret each of these to see if they're good measures of the VCI, PRI, whatnot. Consider the person's strengths and weaknesses, and then use the CPI if you'd like to. Now what Mr. Cartwright was talking about is using the WACE with the CHC theory. And when you do that, you're really looking at the Tim Keith, who came up with Keith's 5-factor model of interpretation. Each of these, GF, GV, GC, GSM, do call on the use of some of these the supplemental tests, like cancellation. So GS, if you really want to look at their GS, then you would look at coding, symbol search, cancellation, and on the processing speed index. So you would want all three of those, right? So if you're going to be using the GHC model to really flesh out your report and talk about these different levels and these different areas of functioning, fluid versus crystallized versus short-term memory and whatnot, then you're going to want to administer all of the subtests that it calls for. And that's the book I just passed around. And this is a really great worksheet, but you could go here and plug in the different scores, and it will give you an idea of whether it's best to use the 5-factor model or the Wechsler system of scoring, because there are different rules that are involved.